Hi there, Telluride owners. Today on your 2021 Kia Telluride, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install eTrailer's Class 3 2-inch trailer hitch receiver. And this is what our hitch looks like when it's installed. The cross tube is going to be hidden completely behind the bumper, so you're just going to see the receiver here at the back. There is some minor trimming that is involved here at the back of our fascia for proper clearance, so just keep that in mind when you're purchasing this. Now, that trimming that is required is in a panel here that you see is removable. This entire panel here could be removed. So if you didn't want to modify the vehicle, Kia did provide an option for you to do so. You just keep in mind it won't look quite as nice. If you trim the panel, you can have a much smoother look for your hitch here. If you pull this panel off, it's kind of exposes a lot of things you really wouldn't want to see. So just keep that in mind. It is a Class 3 2-inch by 2-inch receiver, so it's going to be great for just about everything you'd want to do with it. It's great for accessories and also great for using a ball mount and getting towing some trailers, whether you're wanting to use that for work or for recreation. You'll secure your accessories to your hitch using a 5/8" hitch pin and clip. Now, one doesn't come included with the hitch, but we've got plenty available here at eTrailer, and you can also get locking ones here so you can protect your investments. On bottom, we have hoop-style safety chain loops with a fairly large opening that should accommodate just about every shape, size, and style of safety chain. Our small one here, on and off with ease, and our big guy, same, no problem there. This hitch offers a 750-pound tongue weight, which is the force going down on top of our receiver. And with 750 pounds available to it, should be able to handle just about most of the things you'd want to do with it. For as far as accessories in the back here, a 4-bike platform rack fully loaded up with 4 bikes should be no problem. And the largest cargo carriers that we have here at eTrailer, you should be able to use those as well, fully loaded up to the max on those carriers. Now, you just want to keep in mind that your tongue weight is the weight of anything that's in the receiver plus anything that's loaded on it. So like it would be the weight of the cargo carrier plus the capacity of the things that you're putting on it. So just keep that in mind. It also offers a 5,000 pound gross towing capacity, which is how much that you can pull behind it. And with 5,000 pounds available, you should be able to pull some smaller campers. Pop-up should be no problem. There's some smaller ones out there that aren't pop-ups you should be able to pull. There's quite a few boats you should be able to pull with this, John boats easily, and then even some of your more like medium sized boats you should be able to pull with this as well. It is rated for use with the weight distribution system, so we've got plenty of those here at eTrailer, and when using a weight distribution system, it does increase our gross towing capacity up to 6,000 pounds, so you can pull a little bit more with it. Our tongue weight will remain the same, and a weight distribution system installs mostly on your trailer, and it helps to take some of the weight from the tongue weight of your trailer that's sagging down the back of your vehicle. It will redistribute some of that weight onto the front axle, restoring lost ride height and lost handling and braking performance. So it can just help you really tame a trailer that you're having difficulties with, whether it's sway or just immense weight here at the back, causing a lot of chucking and stuff. Now, as always, I want you to verify in your vehicle's owner's manual and ensure you don't exceed any of its towing capacities. Now I've got some measurements for you to help you when deciding on accessories. From the center of our hitch pin hole to the edge of our rear bumper, we're right at about 4 inches. This is important when determining if your accessories are going to contact the bumper when inserted into the receiver, and if they can be placed in the upright storage position without contacting the bumper. And from the ground to the top inside edge of our receiver tube, we're right at about 15.5 inches. This is important when determining if you need a drop, a rise, or a raise shank on your accessories. Now that we've covered some of the features of our hitch here, why don't you follow along with me and we'll show you how to get it installed there in the shop. This is something I'd say you'd be able to do in your driveway in probably about an hour and a half. It's a little bit tight under there, having to lower the exhaust a little bit, so doing this at home is probably going to take a little bit longer. It's definitely doable. We are going to use a lift in there so you can see things better. Just keep in mind that it's going to be a little tight on the one side, and you do have to do some trimming here. You could save yourself some time on trimming by removing the panel, but if you're looking for, if you're wanting the best look, it's probably going to take you a little bit longer to make it all look nice. We'll begin our installation here at the back of the vehicle. We're going to lower down our spare tire. We need to get that out of the way. So you can lift up on your rear compartment here. And I actually just like to move it all the way out of the way. You have a cover here for your spare tire. I already popped that up, just a little screwdriver there. You can stick it under there and pop that thing out of the way. And then we need a 21mm socket here to remove our spare tire. You'll probably need an extension to make things a little bit easier. So we got a big extension here. That way our ratchet clears kind of all the way around, so we can just lower it down. If you look in your owner's manual, you do also have spare tire tools. There's a compartment I can see over there that's got like your jack and stuff in it. So you'll probably find tools in there as well for lowering down your spare tire. But you know, if you got a socket right there, rather than getting more things out, you can just grab your socket and take care of that real fast. We'll just grab our spare tire and just roll this off to the side. We're now underneath the vehicle on the driver's side. There's a plastic shield here that we're going to remove. You can see that we've got some push pins on the bottom there. Looks like we got 3 that we'll need to take off. This one, I don't think we need to remove it. So we're going to try just these 3, and then if we have to remove that 4th one, we will. We're just taking our screwdriver, and there's a little slit here in the side, kind of all the way around. It's almost like a plus shape. Just stick your screwdriver right in the opening and give it a little bit of a twist, and that'll pop that out of there. Now, it's not uncommon for these to get filled up with dirt and stuff. So if you're doing one way and it doesn't want to pop out, go the other direction with your screwdriver and try that way and kind of work it back and forth to break that dirt free. All right, we got those 3 removed. Looks like we don't need to remove that one, so that's all good. Straight up from here on each side, kind of these cutout areas, we're gonna have plastic nuts there. These plastic nuts don't like to unthread very well. We're gonna use a 14mm socket, and we're gonna pull downward on our panel ever so slightly here to assist the nut to come off. Yeah, see, they just don't like to release very well, so you gotta kind of pull down while you're threading them off a lot of times. And there we go, got that guy off of there. We'll just set that aside. Now, real quick, before we continue on with our hitch, behind that panel that we just removed, this is where you'll find your connectors for your wiring. So if you're looking to add like a 4-pole or something to your vehicle, maybe even a 7-pole, you can tap in here, and we sell custom fit kits here at etrailer that'll plug into these connections to give you those, I think it's this one right here, this connection that'll give you your 4-way. So just keep that in mind. If you're putting your hitch on, this is a great time to do your wiring as well, since you're gonna be right here. The next thing we're gonna do is lower down our exhaust, because over here on the passenger side, it's in the way of us getting our hitch installed. Well, we need to put a strap in place, because if our exhaust lowers down too far, you can damage the exhaust further up where it bends. So we're just running this across. I'm just hooking it on the coil spring on each side, and just pull your strap tight there. That way when we go to lower this down, we don't have to support it, because it's fairly heavy. So we can use our strap to kind of hold all the weight, and we'll just slowly loosen our strap to drop it down in a nice controlled manner. Now we'll remove our isolators. We've got 3 of them. You'll have one here near your exhaust tips. If we go around the muffler here, you'll have one at this corner, straight up here. And then if we head towards the center of the vehicle, we'll have another one right here in the middle. So we're gonna get those 3 popped off of there. I'm gonna go grab some silicone spray, because it makes it a lot easier if we can make these a little bit slippery to slide off of there. So to remove these, I'm just taking my silicone spray, putting it on our isolator there, and then we're gonna grab our pry bar here, kind of wedge it behind it, and just push it off there. Just like that. We're then gonna do the same thing for the remaining isolators. And I'm actually gonna save the one here in the middle, spray it real fast and get this one. I find this one is the most difficult to remove. And if you save the most difficult one for last, you've got all the weight of the exhaust on it, and it makes it even more difficult. So let's get this guy before we put too much weight on it. So we're spraying this one as well, and we're just gonna pry it off of there. For this one, I think the way I'm gonna pry it off, I'm just gonna stick my pry bar up here, right behind the isolator, and I'm just gonna give it a push. Sometimes you can just push it off of there. Just gotta get it lined up. And there we go, we hit it most of the way pushed off. It's just barely hanging on there, so just reach up there with your hand and just push it off the rest of the way. So now we're gonna get our next one off. We're just gonna push this one off as well. Just get your pry bar on there. Kind of twisting it a little bit to clear the lip. There we go. We'll just push that right off. And we got our strap here. We're gonna use this to lower it down. And that should be enough there for us to be able to get our hitch in place. But we've got our exhaust supported, so it's not going to come down any further. That may cause some damage to it here. So we're just trying to get enough to kind of get in there. And that's pretty much all we need right there. All right, so now we're kind of at the point where we're ready to raise our hitch up. But before we raise our hitch up, I always like to check anything on the vehicle that we're going to be reusing. And we're going to be using the weld nuts in the bottom of the frame here. So the smaller bolts that come in your kit are going to thread into those. I like to check them. Just grab your bolt, make sure it threads in there. Because corrosion, dirt, a lot of stuff can get up in there, and it can make it difficult for these to thread in. If it's just dirt and stuff, you can use a bristled brush and some silicone spray or rust penetrant to clean it out of there. But if it's corrosion that's in there, a lot of times you're going to have to use a tap and die set to clean it out. So we were able to thread in easily on this side, so we know that this side's okay. I'm going to check the other side the same way. And if I run into any issues, I'll either address it by cleaning it with that bristled brush, or if it's corrosion's just so bad, then we'll have to grab our tap and die set. But all of these are threading in smoothly, so shouldn't really need to do anything to these. All right, so now before we lift our hitch up, we do need to make some trimming here at the back. This panel here is removable. There's a couple of pins here at the bottom, but there are also some screws here across the back. So you could just remove the panel, although those attachments there at the back are going to be visible, so it's not going to be the prettiest thing. I don't really particularly like the way Telluride kind of did this panel, because it's not really, to me, a removable thing that's going to look nice when it's gone. So we're going to trim it out. So that way it still looks decent back here in the back. We've gone ahead and marked it here for what we'll need to trim in order for our hitch to clear properly. You'll find your dimensions in your instructions. You can kind of use the lip here for this panel to go from the edges to make sure you get it centered. Then we're just using our snips here to trim this out. Right, and I've marked it up here into the silver, but if we can, I'd really like to avoid having to cut into the painted surface. So we're going to try cutting it across the bottom. We're going to hold the hitch up there, see how it fits, and if it's not going to clear, if we got way too much pressure or something, then we'll continue trimming up into this area here, because it shows in the instructions to trim this far up, but boy, I really don't want to if I don't have to. So we're just going to try going across. Go. Clean that up a little bit. We can take a file to it to kind of clean that up some as necessary. Probably cut this little tab across just for extra clearance. Yeah, and then we're going to hold it up here and we're going to see if we can make that work, because that'll look nicer if we can do it like that. But if we have to, we will trim further up. So we lifted it up, we went to test fit it, and it was still colliding here with our paneling. We are gonna have to cut up into the painted surface in order for this to clear. So we're just gonna continue cutting on. All right, and now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab a file and I'm just gonna smooth out those edges. All right, so now with the next set of hands, we're going to lift our hitch up into position. We need to go over our exhaust first, then we can raise it up in the middle. We'll then line up the holes in our hitch with the holes in the side of our frame. We'll take our bolt, and you need to have a washer on it, but I can understand where you might want to just slide a bolt through it first by itself, just to support the weight of the hitch. There we go. So now the hitch will support itself up there, making it easier to install the rest of your hardware. So it's okay if you leave that washer off at the beginning. We're gonna go back and put it on. So now we've got it hanging. We don't have to use our muscles and energy anymore. We'll grab this one with a washer on it. We'll tip it into position so that way it lines up with our holes. And then we're gonna slide our bolt in. Now in order for the washer to clear, it's got all this undercoating on the bottom here. So I find you gotta push the washer all the way down flat against the frame first. Then you're able to slide the bolt all the way in, because you see all this stuff here. I even scraped just a little bit of it off of there to make it a little bit easier. After we get that one in, we can then pop this guy back out, put its washer on, and slide it back through. All right, and on the other side of our bolts here, we're gonna be putting conical tooth washers and nuts on. I did want to show you these real fast though. These are the conical tooth washers that come in your kit, and if you look, you're going to get 4 of them that are a more gold color. At least they're more gold color in our kit. They have a smaller center hole than the more bronze colored ones, or copper colored. So just keep in mind, these larger hole ones are for the longer bolts that we're sliding through the frame. These smaller center hole ones are going to be for the bottom, for our small bolts that thread into the bottom. So you'll have 8 of these slightly larger hole ones and only 4 of the smaller hole ones. So we put that washer on, making sure the teeth face towards our frame, and then we'll put our nut on the other side. Same thing with our other bolt, teeth towards the frame. On the other side here, on our hitch side, we put the teeth towards the hitch. And then we'll get that one threaded on. We'll get the other side threaded on the same way. But while we're over here, we might as well get those small bolts in. So we got your smaller bolt here that comes in your kit. Conical tooth goes on top. That's the smaller hole conical tooth. And the teeth are facing away from the head, so they're facing towards the hitch. And then we'll just thread this right into the bottom of the frame. You may have to shift the hitch just a little bit forward or back where it is necessary to get it to line up. And we're just going to do the same thing with the other hole here on this side. And then we're going to head over to the other side, and it's got the exact same hardware in the same locations over in that side. A little bit harder to see over there just because the exhaust is kind of hanging down, but it should be just as easy to get it all installed. All right, we can now go back and tighten down our hardware that we've got it all loosely installed. We're going to do the bottom bolts first on each side. We're going to use a 17mm socket for these. That'll snug it up against the bottom of the frame for us, taking up any gaps in play. And then we're going to switch over to a 19mm socket for our through bolts that are running through. You're going to need a wrench for those as well. We can now go back and torque our hardware to the specifications outlined in our instructions. Your under bolts here are going to be a different torque spec than your through bolts, so just pay attention to that. I also like to start at the bottom again just to make sure we're cinching it up tight before we clamp it. All right, so now that we've got our hitch all torqued down, at this point we just need to reinstall our components in reverse order of how we removed them. We're going to get our exhaust back up, put our panel back up, and our spare tire. I did want to point out, you might notice that I've got this connector here at the back. This is our 4-pole wiring connector. This doesn't come in the kit. This is the wiring we kind of talked about earlier. I went ahead and put that on since our hitch is fully installed. Great time to put this on now to save you some time before we put some panels back up. And yeah, there's the connector I was telling you about, plugs right in. We've got our module that we mounted with the double-sided tape there, and then we just zip tied our wires over there. We sell these no-drill brackets here at eTrailer, so you can clamp your bracket right onto your hitch here, and we also sell 4-pole brackets here. Now this is a little bit installed a little bit differently than you normally would. We actually installed it backwards. It usually hangs off the other direction, and then we kind of bent it so it's at kind of a 45 to properly clear here at the bottom. But you can mold these brackets as necessary. Just kind of wanted to point out that it is a little bit, we did have to modify it just a little bit to make it look nice here at the back. But we didn't have to do any drilling or anything into our vehicle in order to make that work. So I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. So to get our exhaust back up, I'm going to use that silicone spray once again. We're going to put a little bit there on our hanger, push up on our exhaust, and then we can just push this right back into place. That silicone really makes it easy to reattach these pieces. When going back together, I do actually save that hardest one for last because it's actually quite easy to reinstall. It's just the removal that is a little bit more difficult. All right, got all those guys slid back into place, so we can take our strap down now. And then we'll grab our panel here for the side and get that reinstalled. Don't think we're going to need to do any trimming to install this. Looks like it should just go right back up. That all cleared. Those just push right back into place, those style of bolts. That's just kind of how they are. They're for when the guys are building these cars. It's a lot easier to assemble it when you can just push your fasteners in place rather than having to tighten them down. That's kind of why those type of plastic nuts like that don't usually want to just thread off by themselves, why you got to give it that little bit of extra effort pulling downward. And that completes our installation of eTrailer's Class 3 2-inch trailer hitch receiver on our 2021 Kia Telluride.